Acknowledging distraction doesn't negate what happened on Saturday. What it does do, though, is that it helps us take off the shame, identify what's really going on, and solve the problem so that next Saturday, the story can be different.
Hi there, I'm Vanessa Kaiser, a ranch girl turned social worker, business leader, and now entrepreneur. I'm passionate about diving into organization, leadership, personal growth, and efficiency. Around here, we call it rhythmic living, that continuous cycle of assessing the season of life that we're in and creating habits, routines, and processes that serve us best. This show is for the busy, the dreamers, the tired, the go-getters, those who want to live fully, grow steadily, and feel inspired each day. Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast.
You know that pesky little check engine light that comes on from time to time on our cars? There are two types of people in this world. The ones who cover it up with like a cute picture of their favorite puppy, or the ones who pull over, stop the car immediately, and have it towed to the nearest dealership for repair. But sometimes there are signs that something is wrong with the car before the check engine light rears its ugly yellow head. I remember growing up, my dad would often get in my car, drive it, come home and say, "How long has it been making that noise?" To which I almost nearly always responded, "What noise?" Distraction often acts a lot like that pesky, rattling, squeaking, shimmering noise that comes from under the hood. And just like with our cars, how we respond and when can have a very large impact on our life. Are you tired of setting goals and making plans that seem to just add more stress and chaos instead of bringing clarity and direction? The Strategic Reset is a 90-day planning framework designed to help you align your goals with your season, capacity, and values. Because when your plans actually fit your life, you can reach your goals, you can finish your to-do lists, and you can live a fully present life. Grab lifetime access today at inspiringheights.org/strategic reset. As always, I'll drop the link for you in the show notes below. It started with the book, The Unplugged Hours. That's where my distraction journey started, with one of the most obvious culprits, my phone. If you haven't picked up the book, I highly recommend it. It's a great read. It's insightful and authentic and inspiring. And so for several months after I had read that book, I really focused my attention to reducing distraction with my phone. But then some months ago, I kind of started pulling on other strings of this ball of yarn, and now I'm sort of knee deep in distraction yarn, like trying to untangle years of living distracted. Because here's the deal, distraction isn't just distraction. Like that thumping noise in the car or the flashing check engine light, distraction is a symptom that something deeper is at play. It's a behavior fueled oftentimes by something needing our real attention or focus. When we give a half-true apology like, "Sorry, I'm just, I'm just tired today," but really we're annoyed at that person's behavior, there's something there worth exploring. Or when we're in the middle of dinner with our family and our kid is telling us about their day at school and it's a very involved story, and we reach over and pick up our phone and start responding to a work email because for some reason it feels really urgent right in this moment. There's something else worth looking at there. When we procrastinate getting the house ready for guests, claiming that, we work best under pressure, there's another layer. Listen, I know it might sound like I'm taking some seemingly minor things and making them much bigger and more dramatic than they need to be. But friend, that's the problem with distraction. We've just been playing nice with it for far too long. So confrontation feels kind of drastic and dramatic. And to tell you the truth, I kind of hope it is, because This distraction isn't just a problem that's stealing a moment here and a moment there. It is a problem that is stealing us out of living present in our life. Distraction can be a little sneaky. Like that kind of quiet thunking that comes from the back right tire when you get over 67.5 miles an hour. So today, you and I are going to mechanic on this problem together before that scary yellow check engine light starts blinking. We're going to just peel back a few layers of distraction and lay some groundwork for healing by exposing two big truths about distraction. Truth number one: distraction often masks itself as something different. I could talk about countless examples, but let me start with these ones. So let's say one week we totally drop a commitment that we had previously said yes to, right? We don't show up, we don't make the phone call, we don't follow through, we don't bring the treats, whatever that is. And we feel so bad. But then we kind of start rationalizing, like, well, work was so crazy this week and I wasn't really expecting that. And then that water leak in the basement just derailed everything. And then that time change, it totally kicked my tail. So soon, what is actually distraction is just chalked up to busyness and we move on because busyness is socially acceptable. Whereas if we call it distraction, it's much less so. Okay, second example. We offer up a half-hearted, like, "Oh, gosh, you know what? I'm so sorry I was late. I totally lost track of time. See, I am knee-deep in spring cleaning projects this week, and did you know that the thrift store is now only accepting donations at 10:02 on Tuesdays?" Distraction, marked by both productivity and a problem. Or, final one, our phone buzzes when we're at lunch with a girlfriend and we don't pick it up, but we happen to sneak a peek of the text on our smartwatch. And we read the snarky words come scrolling across the screen. We're nodding our heads and we're offering an occasional to our girlfriend to pretend like we're still listening. But actually, we're 1,000 miles away, responding in our head to that snarky text message we just got. We're like, really? You had to send that? That is so rude. Distraction masked by anger. Now, here's a layer we need to peel back together before we go too much further. Getting serious about distraction doesn't mean that we can't or won't or shouldn't experience some of these emotions. It doesn't even mean that sometimes the thing that is distracting us isn't worth our time and attention. But when we avoid calling it what it is first, we are allowing a mistruth to take root. And as mistruth after mistruth is planted, it becomes harder and harder for us to see distraction for what it really is, which leads us to generally letting it win without pause, without question, and without consideration. Now, let's unpack these examples for a moment. I chose them very intentionally because I'm guessing that some version of them is probably true for most all of us. So, starting with forgetting to follow through on the previous commitment in a busy week, right? Is it possible that there were things in our week outside of our control that truly did take over? Yes. Is it possible that even if we would have named the distraction, that commitment still might have fallen to the wayside? Yes. But here's what's also true. It's possible that our plates are too full. The distraction of the week might be a signal that we need to evaluate our commitments and readjust so that we can show up where we're needed, fully present. It's possible that the commitment that we reneged on in the name of busyness was actually something we didn't want to do in the first place. And busyness just became the socially acceptable excuse for getting out of it. It's possible that we were actually a little ticked off with that person with whom we had the commitment with, and we didn't want to deal with it. And wrapped up in all of those possibilities is that none of that was on the forefront of our mind. We didn't break the basement pipes to get out of the fundraising event, right? But that doesn't mean that one of those things isn't still at play. Here's why all this matters. If we don't name it, don't acknowledge it, and don't own it, it keeps going. Next week will be busy too. More commitments will be dropped, more balls will fall. And we don't want that. We want to be women of our word, right? We want to be trustworthy and reliable humans. Okay, masking distraction with productivity and a problem. The double P's, one of my favorites. This feels like a real quick cover up, like a slippery tactic to sort of get out of being in trouble. But once again, bringing it into the light and going, you know what? Distraction is why I was late today. It brings ownership to the situation. And it's like throwing cold water on ourselves for a second. It makes us sort of pause and reflect. And perhaps next time, think about how we want to actually approach a similar situation. Okay, the text message distraction masked by anger. This one feels hashtag classic, sort of like if I had a nickel kind of situation, right? Here's the deal. Maybe that text message was totally uncalled for, right? But that's not actually the problem when we're at lunch with a friend. The problem there is that we're distracted in the first place. So by acknowledging the distraction, we are communicating, I didn't treat you well when I intentionally chose to read that text right in the middle of your story. And I am so sorry. You deserve better than that from me. Truth number 2. Distraction has a way of leading us down a shame spiral instead of to a place of actual healing. Here's a few examples. On a Saturday that we have earmarked for, say, house chores and running errands, we wake up and we find ourselves somehow very comfortably situated on the couch, binge watching the Great British Baking Show. And then when that little "Are you still watching?" message pops up on the screen, it sends us into a tailspin. Like, how am I this lazy that I have sat here in this spot for hours on this day when I have so much to do? Or last week when our spouse was telling us something on a Thursday night about a work project and we sort of started like tuning out and planning a camping trip for the weekend. Like, I need to go to the grocery store, pack the sleeping bags, make sure we have the matches. And then the next day we get a phone call from the school at 3:30 wondering if anyone is going to pick up Susie. And we are instantly angry. Friday is our husband's day to pick up Susie from school, right? So we call him and he doesn't answer. And we text him and he doesn't answer. And we are angry. So then we send a little spicier text message, right? About maybe how he's neglecting his fatherly duties. Then we slam our work computer shut, we get in the car and we go pick up Susie. And an hour later, our husband calls and says something like, I'm super confused. Like, we talked about this last night. I told you I had a presentation at 2 today and you agreed to pick up Susie from school. Shoot, we were not listening. We had tuned out. And all of a sudden, I'm a horrible wife and horrible mother for that matter. I can't believe I wasn't actually listening. I will never do that again. Or when a friend tells us that they have a hard conversation coming up and maybe they ask us to pray for them and ask us to encourage them on the day of the meeting. And we say, yes, of course. And then before taking a moment to put that in our calendar to remind us, we start in on another conversation. So that a few days later, we remember, oh my gosh, the day of that conversation has come and gone, and I didn't pray, and I didn't reach out to them to see how it went or offer up any sort of support, and the shame spiral begins. How could I be such a terrible person and a bad friend? What is wrong with me? Distraction is sneaky this way. Sometimes it puts us on the scent of something else, like what we talked about in the first truth. And sometimes it sends us down the rabbit hole of self-doubt and shame. Let's unpack. Saturday that was supposed to be productive but turned into a couch potato-esque kind of day. Here's what's wrong with chalking this up to laziness and giving ourselves yet another lecture. What if the reason we gave in to distraction was because we're overloaded from a hard week? And this is actually maybe a clue that we should maybe spend some more time figuring out daily rhythms of rest. What if the house chore that we actually have to do, we hate? Acknowledging that doesn't mean we don't have to do them, by the way. How unfortunate is that? But it does give us an indicator as to how to solve the actual problem. Because, friend, shame certainly doesn't do that. Acknowledging distraction doesn't negate what happened on Saturday. What it does do, though, is that it helps us take off the shame, identify what's really going on, and solve the problem so that next Saturday, the story can be different. Tuning out when our spouse is talking. Here's the deal about this shame spiral. If we don't figure out what's behind the tune out, it's going to happen again. No matter how much shame tells us we're a bad person and how hard we promise that we will never make the same mistake twice, human nature and history tells us that that is not true. Were we frustrated that we felt solely responsible for making sure that this weekend family camping trip went off without a hitch, even though we were busy this week too? So tuning him out felt justified? Was this maybe not the best weekend for camping because it was a heavy work week and a heavy life week, and camping, which was supposed to be relaxing and connecting, has actually turned into making us feel crazy with stress? Shame feels like a very powerful element in the moment. It seems like it's strong enough to hold us together, like in line, so that we never mess up again. Except shame is like that really well-designed cake that looks just like a hammer, but actually it's just a chocolate cake. It looks strong, but it's actually squishy. If you're looking for me to maybe provide some evidence to this, take a moment to reflect on the last time shame sent you to a place where you said, "I will never again fill in the blank." How's that going? How's it going? My guess is if you are a human being and human nature has gotten the best of you, it held you for a moment. It did. I don't doubt that. But then, as time has gone on and life has resumed back to normal and people have forgiven you and the shame kind of starts to wear off, then that old pattern of behavior starts to come back up. This is the proof we need that the only way to get it out is to get to the root. Do you ever wish there was a natural, science-backed way to ease aches, boost your mood, and even support healthier skin? I felt the same way until a friend introduced me to LumiBox. Not too long ago, I was venting about long-time ankle pain to one of my girlfriends, and she encouraged me to check out LumiBox, a red light therapy device. She brought it with her for a girls' weekend because this is what it's like to be in your 30s, my friend. I gave it a whirl, and after just a couple of days, I can honestly tell you I was sold. That was the beginning of my journey with this incredible tool for holistic health. Now, LumiBox is a Kaiser family favorite. We use it for everything from soothing aches and eczema to giving our mood a gentle lift on tough days. Here's the deal. LumiBox harnesses the power of red light and near-infrared wavelengths to promote healing deep beneath the skin. Backed by science and loved by so many, it's a simple, natural way to support your mind and body. And for a short time only, LumiBox is offering my listeners an exclusive $260 discount. Just visit LumiBox.com and use the coupon code INSPIRINGHEIGHTS at checkout. Don't wait, this could be your next step towards holistic health. I'll put the link and the coupon code in the show notes. The conversation around distraction has gotten a little bit noisy in the past couple of years. So noisy, in fact, that most of us kind of tune it out. And as I've observed the conversation and then been reflecting on my own distraction in life, I've really come to understand why we're doing that. Distraction reaches far beyond the phone scroll, which is where most of our focus is turned to. Meanwhile, distraction is wreaking havoc all over the place in our day-to-day life, even when our phones are nowhere near. That's the hard news. The good news is we have what it takes to start healing from distraction. And the first step is small, but so mighty. Notice it. Notice it. When we start to offer a half-true excuse, when our mind starts to wander in conversation, when we start to multitask, when we start delaying something that we know we should start right now, notice. And as we notice distraction, the domino effect is inevitable. I'm distracted here. Leads us to think about why, and why leads us to think about how to solve the problem. It isn't complex. It doesn't require a 12-step laminated guide. It just requires us to notice. And that, my friend, is good news.
And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Do you have questions, comments, or insights on today's content? I would love to hear from you. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram, or head over to our website, inspiringheights.org, and click on the Contact Us form. I will link all those locations here in the show notes. P.S. If you haven't already, I would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a quick review of the podcast. This helps get our content in the hands of new listeners. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter and follow us on social media for rhythmic doses of inspiration. All right, friends, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.